Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathy's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance your way. Listen live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, or anytime on iTunes or at IOM FM.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and today we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, unless you call in, something that has always fascinated me and that each of us has and that we can deepen, and that is our intuition and our access to our own knowing. And as I was reflecting on today's show, I was like, oh, wow, I took my first intuitive perception class way back in 1999 or 2000 when I was living in Houston, and that was with a woman named Dawn Clark, and she has a book on intuition. So it really fascinated me, and I would sit in the hot tub and do these exercises that she had in her book or that she had given us, and it was super fun to see what I arrived at. And some of those I still use to this day. So 20 years later, still using some of those, which means for me, they worked. And I'll share those with you, as well as a number of other things, because my intuitive journey, I have always been a person who's super aware of what other people think and their opinions, and that they would like to go for Chinese food, even though maybe I wouldn't like to, and we end up going to Chinese food. Or they would like me to choose this, and so it ends up feeling right to me, even though it's not actually right for me, it's right for them, type of thing. So I've definitely navigated my share of that, and I'm happy to talk about how to do that, because I know a lot of you out there are sensitive, aware beings, and you're like, help, I am so aware of all these different vantage points, or I'm a Libra, and I can see benefits of everything. Yes, been there too. All right. So before we dive in, you are so welcome to call me. The website to do that is iom.fm, and the number is there somewhere. I will say it at some point during the show too, but let me get started. All right. And I always love hearing from you. I love hearing your suggestions, your perspectives, your ideas about, hey, I want to know more about this. I know a lot of you have asked me for a show about sex, which I have been highly hesitant to do, and I've finally found someone to talk about that with, which is coming up and going to be super fun. I also have an upcoming show with author Carol Klein, who's been on the bestseller list many times, which I know is a lot of people's dreams, and she's done it. So we talk about all sorts of things, publishing, writing in that show. It was such a yummy conversation. So keep your eye out for that. The other thing I want to invite you to that I'm really excited about is actually two things, two different classes. And one is called the Bowl of Light. And this is a wonderful Hawaiian exercise taught to me by a kahuna, a shaman that I studied with for years. And it's about purifying your energy and your blood vessel of past stuff, so that you can truly tap into more of who you are, which includes more intuition and knowing. And that is coming up next Monday. If you're in the future, if you're 3 years away listening to this show, you can also get the recording in the shop at meetkathywilliams.com. So you can find out all about that class at meetkathywilliams.com/upcoming. Super simple, beautiful process, and totally effective. and then a class on channeled writing, which these earrings are kind of tapping against the headphones. I don't know if you hear it. I definitely hear it. Sorry. So a class on channeled writing, and that is a beautiful way to get out of your chattery mind and let your intuition come through and play out on the page. And actually, let's start with that. Okay, so you can find out about all the upcoming classes at meetkathyWilliams.com/upcoming. So channeled writing is a super useful way to get out of your chattery head and see what's really true for you. Okay, now, just like each of us has a dominant sense, some of us are more touchy-feely. Some of us are more visual and will remember visual things. Some of us are more auditory and we hear. Some people have a better sense of taste or smell. And I just thought of like being an ice cream taster for Ben and Jerry's or assessing a really good wine. Right? So we all have these dominant capacities, and these play out in our intuition as well. And just because you may be an auditory person when it comes to remembering things, like you'll remember what you heard, or you have a really good ear for songs or whatnot, that doesn't necessarily mean you get your intuitive information in an auditory way. It may, but it also may not. But each of us sort of has a dominant intuitive sense. So that may be you just know not to trust that person, right? Or you get a bad feeling, right? A feeling. Or you hear this little voice that says, watch out here. Or you see some sort of visual. Right? And so these senses sort of play out in our emotional receiving. So if you've heard someone say, well, you just feel whether something's light or heavy and go with the light thing, that may not actually be your way of receiving intuitive information, even though it may be theirs. All right? So everywhere you've made yourself wrong for not being able to know or trust your intuition, will you just take all of those points of view, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and just collapse them back to free-flowing energy? Yeah. Woo, it feels better already. And you just do that simply by asking, right? It's an ask and receive process. So the channeled writing is a beautiful way of integrating a lot of things. It's maybe receiving information that you hear. It's definitely feeling it by writing it out and seeing it when you're looking at what you've just written or as you write it. Okay? And this is something that I've found to be a really powerful practice when you wake up in the morning, before you check email, right? Like when we start to let other people and their messages, texts, emails, social media sort of impact our state of being, it takes us out of this refreshed or dull. Sometimes we feel dull when we wake up. But this space of mind that emerges just after sleep. Okay. And so it puts us in a different brainwave state to read people's texts and have stress because you realize you didn't communicate with something or somebody or oh yes, later today you have that meeting and blah blah blah. Starting to write before you have all those things impact you is powerful for letting your own wisdom guide you. And I like to kind of rest and take some really slow, deep breaths and get centered before I do the writing. And I tend to end up doing like 3 pages, sort of like the book, The Artist's Way, can suggest, for weeks and weeks. Each morning it suggests, write 3 pages without censoring, without processing, without editing, just writing. And I'll talk about this more in the class, but there are some prompts you can give yourself. So you can ask your highest wisdom, what would you have me know? Or what's my next step in relation to this person, this job, this project, this trip I'm going to take, whatever it is. So you're inviting your own wisdom to answer those questions. Right. And I did a lot of work for a while in a modality that didn't like the word answer. And, it's interesting to me, like, I think we all have our own answers. And when you land on your knowing, you kind of land on your answer to your question. Because as Paul Douglas, I have a teacher named Paul Douglas, but as Paul Selig said in the last Sexy Mom Abundant Life show, which is highly worth listening to if you haven't. Paul is a well-known, well-traveled channel who channels the guides. And someone asked a question about knowing. And Paul said, you know what, when you know, there is no question there. It lands. Like, I know I'm hungry. Right? There's not really a question. Am I hungry? Am I not hungry? Like all the deliberating voices. It's just like, oh yeah. Or there's a sense of like, yes, I know this. Right? This is what's true. And so when you're writing, you can help refine and reveal that. And often what I do after I've done my writing for the day, now this is different from the artist's way, because what she has you do for 3 weeks is not read what you've written. I go back through what I've written, look at it, and see what really rings true. Because some of what comes out of my head is crap. We all have that where we just need to dump it out. Oh, I'm afraid about this, or, oh, I have to do this, or some of it's just not the knowing. But you go through it and you look for, oh, is this true? Is this true? Oh, yeah, this is an insight. I didn't realize that. I really know this is true. Okay, and I'll cross things out and I'll highlight things to take away sort of the gold. There are some rocks there that are not gold, but there's definitely some gold too. And often, especially when I'm asking to tap into and connect to my highest wisdom, there's a lot of gold. And some of it I can carry forward into my life, and some of it's just there for me in the moment, right? So channeled writing is a beautiful way to start to get access to your own wisdom without the chatter of your head. Now, I mentioned taking a few deep breaths. Breathing long and slow settles the nervous system. And the breath is kind of the link from the outside world to the inner world, right? And so we're drawing our senses, which are usually so actively focused outward, inward, to the quality of the breath, the length of the breath, the sound of your own breath as you close your eyes and breathe deeply. And as I was kind of reflecting on all of the different sort of psychic development or intuitive practices I've delved into over the years, which includes being certified as an intuitive 3 times, not just once. You got to make sure. I definitely have this kind of Gemini active mind, and so I had to make sure that, I actually do have the skills to know this. And if you're like that, the biggest workshop is not actually going to get another certification. It's really applying this in your life. You can always pick up another skill or two, and that's fine, but, landing on something that works for you and using it and then applying it in your life and seeing your, muscle building that muscle of intuition and being able to rely on it grows it, okay? Going to get more skills doesn't necessarily grow your own intuitive capacity, right? That said, there is a quality of stillness that if you can generate, like every day going into a meditation practice, every day doing some slow breathing, like having that consistency in some way or another can help you go from that beta brainwave state, that active state that's outgoing, to an alpha or even a theta brainwave state. And I know we're going to go to break here in just a moment, but quieting and stilling the mind will help you tap into greater intuition, greater knowing, whether you're visual and get visuals, you hear things, you get a sense, or you just know. All right, so when we come back, I'll lead you through several fun exercises, and we'll talk about right and wrong and the need to get it right, because that often interferes and brings some doubt. But thanks for listening to Sexy Mom, Abundant Life.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and today's show is all about intuition and knowing. And one of the things I mentioned earlier is that doubt sometimes creeps in. Like, we doubt ourselves, we doubt what we know. And, I mean, think about it. All our life, we're trained to look outside for confirmation. Right? We're trained as children that the adults know more than the kids. And we're even told things that aren't true. Like, you're a little kid and you're like, Santa Claus doesn't quite feel like, that's it. And I don't, if anyone's kids are listening. And so then the parent says, oh, yeah, well, Santa, let's go see Santa, and has this whole narrative around this fictitious character existing, even though the kid feels like something's off here, right? And so we begin to doubt ourselves, what we know, because what we know is either invalidated or ignored or not, the adult in our life doesn't agree. And so, we begin to trust them rather than us. And it's a practice of coming back. And that's where, I remember way back when I was first starting intuitive practices, it was like, write down your intuition. Oh, I thought I would have 3 texts. Well, at the time, we didn't even have text, sorry. I thought I would have 3 voicemails, and I did. Oh, when I heard the phone ringing, I thought it would be Sarah, and it was. Or, I knew something was off when he was telling me it was okay, and then it turned out to be true. Like, writing these down to acknowledge yourself and acknowledge what you do know, because so many of us have said, I don't know, over and over until we actually made that true for ourselves, right? Or we didn't actually make it true for ourselves. We covered up our own knowing with that blanket statement, I don't know. And when you find yourself saying that, you could also say, oh, what do I know about this? What do I know about this? What's true here? Cool. All right. So that is a really useful thing to just keep writing down your, keep a running list of, oh, yeah, I can trust my intuition. I knew in this situation. I knew that date wasn't going to work out somehow, and then it didn't. For me, I usually plan the summer sometime in like January, February, or even December, and it just wasn't coming this year, and it wasn't coming, and it wasn't coming, and then, in the end, I was so happy. I was like, oh, wow, see, I didn't plan the summer because the summer plans would have been canceled anyway. So that kind of thing as well. So we're trained to rely on other people's opinions, and, that's for good reason. We kind of, as children, require our parents for survival. We require them to be happy with us in a way for our continued growth and expansion and survival on the planet. The thing is, we don't need that now, but so many of us are still looking for other people's approval instead of like, oh, what really is true here? Or what's true for me? We'd often rather go along with what they want, so we have their approval, so we have their validation, so we, instead of like, oh, well, if I tap into it, what's going to create greater for all of us? And that's available too. So that's a lovely question, to keep in your toolbox with your intuition. Like, oh, what could we choose that would be the highest outcome for all of us? So asking questions It was sitting with those questions, journaling those in the morning. The ego, I think it's really useful to just have a little look at like the ego versus intuitive voice, right? The ego's voice is that one that wants security, wants other people's approval. And even that idea of want indicates lack. Spirit knows no lack. Your intuitive voice doesn't know lack. It doesn't know an urgency of like, oh, well, your well-being depends on this choice, right? Even if it's a warning signal or a act now, there's a sense of like, there's a sense of calm about it, even if it's, I must act now. I must do this now. Whereas the ego's voice has more of a like, oh no, I must make the right decision because my entire future depends on this, and like this sense of fear about it. Spirit's voice has no fear. It may be get out of the way, right? Don't stand in the road. It may be don't go down that road, right? But there's not a sense of fear. It's a sense of support, if that makes sense. So one thing you can start to do is start to look back on your life and play with, okay, when are instances where I really know it was intuition that was guiding me? And when are instances where I kind of maybe got confused and thought it was my ego? Or when was it my intuition and I got derailed? Okay, for me, I'll tell you a story of that. I was going to have my whole house painted. Like, I had this interior designer friend who was going to do something for my new house. And this is this house that I'm in now. And I was pregnant at the time. And something felt off about her proposal that she did, right? She made this proposal, and something felt off about it. And as I started to play with it, I went for a massage, which calmed the nervous system, right? Like, sort of like meditation does. And I sat with the idea of what she had proposed. And then I came up with my own idea. And no urgency to it. No, my life depends on this working out, right? Like, that would have been the ego voice. It was more, you know what? I really get the sense this will work better. Okay. And so I came home and I told my husband this, and I'm not making him wrong here at all. This is just a place where I let someone else's point of view derail my own. And so I told him my idea, like, oh, well, let's do these rims and not those rims. Let's just leave those. And he was like, no, you go over, you're going to have the baby, and by the time you come back, because I had to go to a different island to have my baby, by the time you come back, the whole house will be wonderful and put together and ready. Okay? So that's where I let someone else's point of view completely derail what had a sense of calm and ease and just sat right for me. So I said yes to what he told me, and went off and had my baby and came back, and there were, there were things right and left. Like, she had tried to paint one of the rims that in my new version 2 scenario, right? I was not going to have her paint. And the funny thing is, they tried to paint it, and it just wouldn't work. And there were other things where it was just like, yes, version 2 was actually guided by spirit, and I totally didn't stand for version 2. Like, no, let's just do it this new way. It's going to work. Trust me, right? So that's kind of like you have two choices. You have the intuitive voice is speaking, and you have choice to listen or not to listen. But life works better when you listen. All right. So you like looking at your own awareness and beginning to trust your awareness more is huge in tapping into your intuitive voice. And part of that is, I use the word ego, but this could be the past. Anytime you're trying to base something off the past, you're going to your story, and that's got ego in it. Okay. Spirit isn't reliant on the past. With spirit, you know something that you don't know why you know it, right? Someone new enters your life, and you get the sense not to trust them, and you have no experience with this person, but something in you just knows, or you get a hit in some way. So that's not based on the past. Except perhaps it is, because we're filtering we're receiving so much information all the time. Like right now, you are aware of your fingernail, like the skin underneath your fingernail on the right hand. And now I've just made you aware of it. But your body has been aware of it the entire time, right? Your being has too, but your conscious attention just went there because I pointed it out. So we're taking in millions of sensory bits of information all the time. So perhaps, our intuitive hit is just based on that sensory information that we're not quite aware of on the conscious mind level. Anyway, all right. So let me give you a super simple two-choice, well, you can do more, kind of exercise that I like to play with. And I'll write a couple choices on a piece of paper. Maybe you've done this before. And then put them in a bag. And let's say we have three choices. Write them on pieces of paper, stick them in a bag, and then pull one out with my eyes closed and hold it and just ask for the information about this choice to come to me. Okay? And maybe I'll get visual. I'm a very visual person, and also I'm kind of all three, but I started off being visual. And as you deepen your connection to your primary intuitive sense, then you start to get other intuitive senses to come in and either reinforce or fill in the blanks. So I'll take the piece of paper, sit with it, ask for the information to be really clear. That's been huge for me. That ask definitely helps. Another thing that I usually ask is for everyone else's point of view, except my own light beings, you can call them guides, you can call them whatever, to back off. All right, so everyone else involved, every other entity in and around the room, ask those all to give you space so that you can become clear about what's true for you. Right, so I'll sit with that, ask for the highest wisdom about this choice, and if I'm not getting things, okay, make it more clear. Make it more clear, please. And get a sense. Okay. And then I'll put that one somewhere, maybe it's off to the right, and then take a new piece of paper, a different choice, and sit with it. And get a sense, does this feel more expansive to me? Am I getting a funny feeling? Am I getting a weird visual? What's happening, right? My visual does not, let's say my choice is, well, I have had to make this choice to keep this house that I'm in or to keep one of the other houses that I own, right? And let's say the visual is I'm getting like a little sapling or something like that. Well, what does that sapling represent to me? Okay. What does that sapling, like the sapling isn't necessarily, quote, on a logical level related to the house, right? The sapling, or let's say I see a pair of diamond earrings, right? That's not necessarily a house related item, okay? but it does give me information, right? And I can ask more questions about that. Are those representative of what are those representative of? Are they representative of like gems in this house, right? Not necessarily on a physical level, but like the gems related to this house. So asking more questions. If something's unclear, ask for more information. When I was in my first intuitive class, they would always say, now, like if it's unclear to you, you could ask, oh, does this diamond mean something to you? Right? Oh, yeah, that's from my grandmother. Okay, cool. Right? So then go along with the third piece of paper from the bag. Put that one down, put the second one down in a different location so you'll know, oh, the second one's to my left. Then take the third piece of paper, do the same process. Oh, well, I'm seeing a werewolf or something. And you're like, that doesn't feel so good to me. All right, that third choice, and I'm getting a bad feeling. No. Okay. So then you take each piece of paper and you look, oh, choice A was this. Okay, cool. Choice B was this. Choice C was this. I'm not going to go with choice C. Choice A was the one that kind of felt the best. And so you get this differentiation between the three. And when we come back, I will guide you through another exercise and talk a little bit about receiving signs, dancing with the universe, and messages from the big you to the little you that's embodied on planet Earth. So stick around, and on the break, feel free to check out meetkathywilliams.com. There is a free exercise to connect you to your just a channel of light exercise.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hey everyone. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy, and we're talking today about intuition. And intuition is one of those things where it's like the more you use it, the more it grows. The more you acknowledge that, oh, I did know, the more you're able to settle into that. So let's talk a little bit about agreements to not know. I talked earlier about, as children, invalidating what we know. But everywhere you have decided that it's safer to not know than to know, will you collapse all of those points of view back to energy? Just kind of de-solidify them. And sometimes we think that's because we're given information that felt unsafe, right? I remember a friend telling me, yeah, I knew that my boyfriend's sister's car was unsafe, and I told them that, and she drove it anyway, and she died, right? And so sometimes we'll cut off our knowing because it's so traumatic. It's so like, whoa, or other people get mad at us. So everywhere you've cut off your knowing in any way or decided it's unsafe to know or be intuitively aware, will you collapse all of that back to energy? Yes. Across all time, space, dimensions, and realities. Wow. Yeah. So I'm just yawning because there's a lot of unconscious charge there. There's a lot of clearing. And this, can be very specific to this lifetime. This can be very general. This could be, oh, it's not safe because I was burned at the stake, or that type of thing. So everywhere where you're letting a past life experience affect you and block you from your intuition, now will you collapse all of the energy patterns back to free-flowing energy across all time, space, and dimensions. Okay, there's a lot more of this clearing we could do, and we're going to do some of it in the channeled writing class that's coming up. meetkathywilliams.com/upcoming is where to find all the upcoming stuff. I'm not sure that class is on that page yet, but it is coming. So like all these agreements to not know, to block ourselves, to block our intuition, not so fun. All right. The other things that kind of need to be stabilized and strengthened for you to have a really strong intuitive channel are your root chakra, again, because of that fear. If the root is really strong and stable, then we can trust even more our capacity, trust what we see, trust what we hear, trust what we know. All right? And we don't have that fear that's going to knock us out into a beta brainwave state, so into a less relaxed state, and we can receive more of what we truly know. Okay? So there's that. If you're expressing what you know in the world, the throat has to be really strong. So that's more if you're being an intuitive for others, right? To be able to express what you know really clearly. And then the third eye, right? The third eye has to do with intuition, knowing, often visualizing and seeing. So the column of light exercise that I have at meetkathywilliams.com/limitless is free. That particular one, I have many, and some are going in the shop. That particular one is really short. It was recorded during a workshop, and it's just a quick realignment. And if you know that, oh yeah, my root could really use some more attention, spend some more time with your attention in the tailbone area with the light. So you're working with the light and that tailbone area. Or if you know that, oh yeah, I get a lot of intuitive information, but I'm not willing to express it, then, get a sense, is that from my third chakra? Is that like, I don't want people to, think whatever they think? Or is it more about the throat? so you can spend more time with the light in that area. The column of light exercise is really, really good for being able to help you integrate and balance your chakras, and also for taking that attention inward out of the monkey mind. So as I said, you can get that for free. Meet KathyWilliams.com/limitless, and it's super quick, super simple. And you can, once you know it, you can dance with it for a long time. Like you can be in that column and, deepen your connection even more. And like I said, in the shop, there are longer ones available to really play with that. One of my students said, Kathy, that is the thing I learned that got rid of my anxiety. So use it. All right. We talked about channeled writing. We talked about different ways of receiving information. And you can ask yourself, when I know something, is that because I hear a voice? Is it that I hear a chime? And you can play with different ways of receiving information. So you can say, okay, if I did know something, what is a clear yes for me in terms of auditory, in terms of sound? So I asked myself, my inner wisdom, to give me a sound once, and I got a little sound like when you get a game show thing correct. Ding, ding, ding. Awesome. And when you get a game show thing wrong, it goes, eh. And so I asked it to be really clear. When something's on, when I'm, aligned, when it's the action to take, if I'm listening for an auditory sound, I get a ding, 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 or an eh. Okay? That's my own personal thing. And it's not, and then, when it's it doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means ask some more questions, get some information. Is it some version of this, but not this, right? And so it's my own inner guidance. I remember working with a client, and she said, Kathy, it's like I have my own little meter of it wasn't bullshit meter. It was like this lie detector. And am I lying to myself? Am I not? Am I on track? And so hers was kind of a gauge that would go back and forth. And it's pointing sort of in the direction, but not quite there yet. So what other questions can I ask? So it's really on. And you can play with this. So I gave you the exercise of pulling a piece of paper, taking a piece of paper, holding it, and get a sense. But you don't even have to have a formal thing. You can, there's so much I want to tell you. It's like, we only have a few minutes left. All right. So you could be in the store and asking about something like, oh, if I go in the direction of like hanging out with this guy more or hanging out with this friend more, what's that going to create? And get a sense. Right? So as you're going through your life, ask yourself and just get a sense. And we're going to take right and wrong out of the picture here. Because remember, the ego wants to get things right. It wants to make sure it has all the information to make the right choice. Well, there is no way you're ever going to have all the information, right, until you take a leap. But you can go on what you sense, right? Based on the information I have right now, I sense, I feel, I get that this is the right choice for me, right? So it's not right or wrong. It's like it feels right in this moment. It's right for me right now. And so you go in that direction. And then maybe it doesn't turn out in the way you thought it would, but it turns out to lead you some other way. So you get a sense like, oh, you know what, I'm going to buy a house and it really feels like this house. And then you go to that house and you're like, oh, I love this house. And then you don't end up getting it. Okay. But you got the energy of what a house you would like is like. Or you got a sense that, oh, I would really love a house with a basement, right? I haven't been seeing houses with basements. That's really important to me. So just because something feels right doesn't mean it's going to end up being what your mind thinks it should be. But you're following your intuition, so it's almost like you're following the breadcrumbs of the universe, taking you around the mountain, not straight up the mountain, around the mountain in the most useful way for you. All right? So every time you're trying to get a choice right, just remember, there's no right or wrong here. It's, am I listening to my inner guidance, or am I feeling desperate, anxious, that my worth depends on this? And if so, I'm working from my story. All right? If I weren't working from my story, what would I know here? What's my awareness here? So we're going to talk a little bit about signs, because signs are a fun way of communicating and receiving communication from the universe. And I know that a lot of naysayers will say, well, you see what you want to see. Yes, you do. Okay. However, if you're open to communication, you can get a lot of awareness from signs. And one of the things you can give your ego, fear-based mind, the job to do is, I remember at one point, probably about 10 years ago, I sat down and I said, hey, ego, you've done such a great job watching out for me, right? The fear-based mind is always trying to do a useful job of serving you, right? Trying to protect you. All right. Thank you so much for doing such a good job. Now your new job is to look for signs and synchronicities. Look for where things are aligning. And so you're taking it out of like, I have to protect you that way, and now into, oh, cool, this new job, right? This new job is also protecting me, right? It's helping me navigate around the mountain in the most useful way for me. So you can say, oh, show me. I like to be very specific. Show me 3 butterflies. You know, if I'm on track with this. And I usually choose things that are not common, right? I live in Hawaii. I would never say, hey, show me 3 girls in bikinis if I'm on the right track with this. Or show me, right? Show me 4 surfers if, you know, this is a choice that would be useful for me to make, right? No, because those things are super common. So I'll choose something like crows, which we don't have in Hawaii. Or you know, different little signs and symbols, and I ask my intuition to feed what I'm choosing as well. And I'll give a deliberate time frame, 3 days. Show me this in 3 days. Because that means, you know, if I don't give a deliberate time frame, we're open-ended. Yeah, someday, ultimately, I will see 3 crows. You know, whether that's I see 2 tomorrow and then, you know, 1 16 years from now. But by setting a deliberate time frame with your signs and with your choice, it becomes a lot clearer. Then I usually ask for you know, like if it's, I've said to myself, if it's this, give me 3 butterflies. If it's this other thing, give me 3 swans or something like that. And that could be seeing 3 pictures in a book, on the internet, you know, in real life, whatever it is. Just because this is a constant dance. Your life is a constant dance of like you becoming more and more aware of how the universe is supporting you. And to that end, you can ask for signs. about your direction. Just like you would ask, you would ask the GPS, look at the GPS. Am I on track? Am I not on track? So I hope this show has given you some really useful tools for you to play with. You can also imagine kind of with each choice, oh, I'm taking this apple out of a bag. And, oh, look, it's a wormy, yucky apple. Oh, okay, with this choice, let me take this apple out of the bag. Oh, it's kind of tart. Okay, I don't love tart apples. How about this choice? This one feels really good. It's a beautiful, shiny, yummy apple. So playing games and just strengthening that muscle through the games, knowing that you don't have to get it right. It just has to feel right for now, and then you'll take one step, and then a risk, and then a new step emerges. All right? Send me your messages at meetkathywilliams.com, and I'll be back here again in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, you can find Spotify, iTunes, wherever you like to listen, all the different archives. All right, everybody. Aloha. Have a great week.